Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Suranjali Seal, and like I always say, if you're somebody that loves literature and is all about literature, then this is the place to be. In our video today, we're going to talk about the literary devices. We're going to talk about Bathos. We're going to talk about Anticlimax. These two have certain similarities and very key differences that we have to remember, which will clear the concepts out for us. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. So let us have a look at the definition first, okay? Bathos and anticlimax are literary devices that both involve a shift from a serious or elevated tone to something trivial or ridiculous, but they differ in their intent and effect. So see, both bathos and anticlimax, you have to underline this, they involve a shift in tone, a shift from a serious or elevated tone to something trivial or ridiculous. That means your tone is here. This is the level at which you are, okay? This is the level you're at, and from here you just suddenly drop down, okay? So from an elevated tone, from a serious topic, you just come down to a very ludicrous one, very unimportant topic. And it can be an anticlimax, it can be bathos. We just have to know the difference between the two, okay, to figure out which is which. So elevated tone to something trivial or ridiculous, but they differ in what? Their intent and effect, okay? Their intent, their purpose and effect. That is, what effect does it have in the novel, in the sentence, in the line, in the audience? What effect does it have? That is what we have to figure out in order to understand both their definitions, the concepts. So bathos is unintentional or contrived descent into the mundane. Okay, it sounds very difficult, but it actually isn't. Bathos is unintentional. That is, in a flow of words, in a flow of situation, the whole thing becomes such that it just falls down. Like, you don't intend that, okay, I'm going to intentionally pull it down. But in anticlimax, it's intentional, okay? Like when the writer is writing something, the plot will build up to a point after which it'll just drop down again. Like the audience is expecting a very big thing. The plot is building up, building up, building up, building up, and the audience is expecting something, but something else happens. So that is deliberate. The writer usually does it deliberately. So intent, for bathos, it is unintentional. Usually, not always, usually, most of the time, it is unintentional. Often used for comedic effect. Like you do it for comedy, for comedic effect. While anticlimax can be deliberate technique to create a sense of disappointment or deflation. A writer uses anticlimax to create disappointment, to create deflation. Like imagine why the word deflation. Imagine there's a balloon, right? You're blowing into air into the balloon and it's, inflating. You will expect that a point will come when the balloon will burst because there's too much air in it, right? There's too much air in it. You're blowing air into a balloon and it's inflating. And just when you think that now the balloon is going to pop, okay, now it's going to burst open, the balloon deflates. All the air comes out again. It does not burst on you, just deflates. So that is the concept of anticlimax. You expect it to pop, but it doesn't. You expect something to happen, but the contrary happens. There's a sudden drop. So a bathos, let's look at this first. Bathos is a literary device that uses an anticlimactic descent from the serious or elevated to the trivial or commonplace. Anticlimactic effect. That means, okay, bathos, okay, uses an anticlimactic descent. That means anticlimax is a broader term. Just like my previous video which I had uploaded, I told you, right, that allegory is a broader term. Under it you have like specific type of allegories like fables and parables. Similarly, anticlimax is a broader term, okay, broader term. And you have specific type of anticlimax, okay, which is bathos. And what is bathos? How is it different? We'll talk about all of this. Bathos is unintentional and usually used for comic effect, okay, comedic. They are used to actually invoke this comedic reaction from the audience, okay. It is unintentional. So it is an anticlimactic descent from the serious or elevated to the trivial or commonplace. That means you're here and it's just the opposite, not the opposite. From here you just come down. That is, from a serious you come to the comedic, trivial, that is not important, unimportant and commonplace thing. So often for comedic effect or to create a sense of irony. Now, irony versus sarcasm, I have done this in detail in one of my other videos, so make sure you watch them. I'm not going to repeat it here. It's a deep dive, okay, into the whole concept of irony and sarcasm, so make sure you watch that video if you haven't already. So, it is for comedic purpose or for irony. Now, it's characterized by a sudden shift in tone or subject matter from something grand or important to something mundane or ridiculous. So you're actually going to the ridiculous. Okay, I'll tell you, this will be very easy for us to understand if you're aware of this character from the series, okay, The Big Bang Theory. I'm pretty sure many of us or most of us have watched the series The Big Bang Theory. It's there on Netflix also. So if you see the whole character of Sheldon Cooper, no, he evokes Bathos many times, actually most of the times in the series, right? Sheldon evokes Bathos in the audience. Why? First, it's unintentional. You will see that Sheldon is very direct. He's very open. He does not pretend. Like, he's very unconventional as a character. He's not conventional in the societal eyes, okay? So, Sheldon Cooper, no, he evokes Bathos because you'll see many times. So, there's a very serious situation going on. Say his best friend, Leonard. Leonard has been in trouble so many times, okay? But in those serious situations also, Sheldon unintentionally, because his character only is like that, unintentionally in a very serious situations, he says something so trivial, so out of the box, that all of us audience, we end up laughing, right? For comedic effect, we laugh because Sheldon says something that's part of his character. He does not understand that he's being insensitive, or he does not understand pretensions of the society. He's an unconventional character, so he just says something that is completely trivial or ludicrous in that situation, okay? Something very mundane. Maybe his best friend is going through something, and he says, even sometimes you'll see the character of Howard also does that many times, that something very serious is going on, and Howard says something that is very in keeping with his character. But Sheldon is more it, because Sheldon says something in a very serious situation that sometimes like you keep wondering that did Sheldon actually say that, like, because he says something that actually turns the whole situation into comedy. It's a serious situation, but we all end up laughing, and he unintentionally does it because his character is like that. So I'm just giving you example, okay? Imagine a scene where characters are discussing a grand world-altering event. Their voice is filled with gravity and importance. Then, in the middle of the conversation, one character casually mentions that they're also worried about finding a parking spot. The shift from the weighty topic to the mundane creates Bathos. That is, somebody is saying the world is changing. I really hope that the world, goes to a better future. And other people will say, yeah, I'm also worried about the parking lots. So, you see, there's a sudden shift to a very trivial topic, a commonplace topic, mundane, everyday topic, parking spots, when you're talking about something larger. So, there are many places where something serious comes up, and Sheldon Cooper, he talks about his action figures, or he starts talking about Star Wars, and he starts talking about, things that maybe for the common public, right, is mundane. Things for him that matters a lot, of course, but for the common public, it's mundane. Sometimes even Penny keeps saying that you all are children, stop being so childish, okay, like that. So the idea over there is Bathos. Like, it's done for comedic effect, okay? And if you watch the series, you'll get to understand what I'm talking about. Now, anticlimax is a broader term, okay? Anticlimax is a literary device where a series of events or a narrative series of events. Bathos is an anticlimactic descent. It can be a small part also, like something is happening and suddenly Bathos is evoked. But anticlimax is a build-up. It's a build-up. It happens gradually. Anticlimax is a literary device where a series of events is building up, okay, or a narrative descends from a significant or serious tone to a trivial or ludicrous one, often resulting in a sense of disappointment or letdown. So I'll give you an example. Bathos, okay, is like, things are happening, okay, you're talking, but it can be a sentence also. You say something and towards the end it just drops. Like I said, the conversation, somebody says that, yeah, they're worried about the world and they're also worried about the parking spots. So, it can be short also. But for anticlimax, since it's a broader term, right, there's a build up. Like, throughout, say, in any play, or maybe you can say H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. I've mentioned it somewhere else also. I don't remember. In one of my other videos, I've mentioned this, that in H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, right, the novel builds up to a point where the Martian invasion has happened. Earth is invaded by Martians, okay? So, you expect, right, that the Martians have invaded Earth and there'll be a hero that will drive off the Martians or drive away the Martians from Earth. That's what we expect, that a hero will come and drive off these, extraterrestrial invaders and save Earth. But you know what kills the Martians? Everyday germs. Earth germs kill the Martians. So you see, you expect this very over-the-top explosive conclusion that a hero will rise up and actually drive away the Martians from our planet, but actually it's our planet's Earth germs kill the Martians, okay? So it's an anticlimax. The way the novel is progressing, you feel like you'll reach that point where the balloon will pop, but it doesn't. It actually deflates, okay? So anticlimax is a literary device where a series of events or narrative takes place. You build up slowly, the story is building up, and then the deflation takes place. So in a sense, often resulting in a sense of disappointment or letdown. It is the opposite of climax, where tension builds to a satisfying resolution. Like I have talked about this in my Aristotle videos when we discussed hamasha, catharsis and everything, that a resolution is presented to us, okay, that results in catharsis, a resolution. Climax is not the end of the story, like I told you, it's the middle of the story or the middle of the play, according to Aristotle's tragedy. The middle is the climax. After that, the descent takes place, right? The resolution happens. So, climax is where the tension builds to a satisfying turn of events, satisfying resolution. Instead, anticlimax create an unexpected shift that undermines the audience's expectations. I had given the example of Cruella, if I remember, in my Aristotle video, that, the story builds up to a point where Cruella wants revenge. So, till the climax, Cruella, it's the turning point, right? Climax is the turning point of the play. It appears in the middle of the play. So in the climax, I had told you that Cruella discovers who murdered her mother. She discovers who murdered her mother, and the rest, the falling action, the rest of the play takes place on how she takes revenge. Okay, so that is climax, resolution. She discovers who the murderer of her mother is and she decides to take revenge. That's the climax. The falling action is how she takes revenge. Okay, then catharsis. But if it's an anticlimax, imagine Cruella discovers who murders her mother. Okay, but she decides to forgive the person, does not take revenge. Okay, she decides to work with the person and, in the fashion industry, and does not take revenge and forgives. So it is contrary to what the audience expects, right? It's contrary, opposite. So it's an anticlimax. From that build up, there's a drop. Okay. Now you have to also understand that bathos, okay, is also usually used with the idea of pathos. Okay, bathos, pathos sound the same, but they're entirely different in their meaning. So here I'll explain to you pathos also. So we'll be done with three, right? Three figures of speech. So pathos, from Greek pathos, means suffering, experience, or emotion. Is a quality in a work of art or literature that evokes pity, sympathy, or sorrow in the audience. It's an appeal to emotion designed to create a genuine emotional connection. So I'm not going to dive deep into this. This is very on the face, on the surface. It's not even like, it's just out there. The meaning is very simple. That pathos means it'll evoke emotions from the audience. Its intention is for you, we say stand in the shoes of the other person, right? If you stand in the shoes of the person in front of you, you will feel for that person even more. Same idea, that you see and feel for the characters that you see and feel for the person standing in front of you or the people that you see in front of you. That's the idea. Pathos is used to evoke that sense. Pathos is, in a work of literature, evokes pity, sympathy, empathy, okay, sorrow also in the audience. So it's an appeal to emotion. I'm just underlining this is very important. It's an appeal to emotion, okay, to create a genuine emotional connection. All right. So now we're going to talk about the intention. What is the intention of Bathos? Okay, comedic effect. But intention of Pthos is to move the audience to feel deeply, to emphasize or empathize with characters or situations, and to share in their pain, struggle, or vulnerability. It aims for sincere emotional response. Effect: a feeling of sadness, compassion, tenderness, or shared humanity, human to human, that emotional connect, right? Or human to animal also, that humanity that we say, right? Say kindness is humanity, love is humanity. We want to help one another, right? That compassion and empathy that is evoked. So when successfully achieved, it leaves the audience with a sense of emotional resonance and understanding. So I think you understood this. We're going to move on to the next slide. We're going to look at the similarities now very quickly. Sudden descent, both Bathos and Anticlimax, that's what we're discussing. Bathos and Anticlimax, there's a sudden descent in both. So both involve a sudden drop from something significant, lofty, or intense to something trivial, ordinary, or ridiculous. So you have both. Bathos, sudden from a particular point, sudden drop. Even Anticlimax, a particular point, okay, deflation, drop. Breaks expectations, they both subvert the audience's expectations, leading to a sense of surprise or letdown. Both Bathos also, from a high point to a ludicrous trivial one, okay, contrary to our expectations. Anticlimax also, highest point, deflation, contrary to the audience's expectation. Now, often for humorous effect, both can be used intentionally for comedic effect or unintentionally, okay? Undermining seriousness, they serve to deflate seriousness or grandeur. So, both of them are similar. So, if all of these are similarities between the two, then what are the differences? So we're going to look at the differences, okay? This is very key, we have to understand. Differences, first difference is in their intentionality. What is the intention of Bathos? What is the intention of Anticlimax? When are these two employed? Why are they employed? So in Anticlimax is typically a deliberate rhetorical device used by a writer for a specific effect, often to create humor, irony, or to highlight a sense of disappointment. Bathos can be intentional for same purposes, ironic purposes or comic purposes, similar to Anticlimax, but it can also be unintentional. Like I said, in Sheldon's character, right? It's unintentional. Unintentional Bathos often arises from a writer's failed attempt to achieve pathos. So evoke pity or emotion, resulting in an overly sentimental, exaggerated, or absurd scene that becomes humorous due to its ineptitude. This is really, really interesting. I'm telling you, go watch the Netflix series Sheldon. Okay, I mean, if you can watch The Big Bang Theory, Sheldon, is an embodiment of Bathos, situational Bathos, okay, unintentional Bathos, because, see, both Anticlimax and Anticlimax is intentional, okay? When the writer is writing, say when H.G. Wells was writing The War of the Worlds, he intentionally deflated, right, towards the end. That's an intentional deflation for whatever reason it can be. It can be comic also, satiric also, any reason. That is intentional. Bathos can be the same. It can be intentional, okay? For comedic or ironic effect, whatever. It can be intentional. The same. But sometimes it is unintentional. That's the difference. Bathos can be unintentional also. And usually, most of the time, it is a failed attempt at pathos. I don't want you to get confused. So I'll tell you, I'll just give an example. Pathos, you're trying to evoke sadness, right? You're trying to evoke something very sad. Okay, but while doing that, you say something trivial, like suppose you will say there's a ship, okay, and on that ship there are people, and those people are drowning, okay. You have butter and cookies and ship and people that are drowning. So imagine you are standing, you're watching, or maybe there are characters who are watching this scene, and one character says, oh my god, I really hope that the people are okay. I'm really concerned about the people who are drowning, okay, who the sailors that have drowned. And another character says, yeah, and also the cookies and the biscuits. So, I mean, human life is a lot more like, I mean, if you see it that way, human life is important, right? These are living, breathing creatures, and the other is worried about bakery products. Not if they would have said food, that's a different thing, but they said butter and the cookies. Okay, so, it's a weightage. Which side is more which side are you weighing, and what are you saying, in which situation are you saying? Is it intentional, is it unintentional? That is Bathos, that is Anticlimax. Okay, the difference between the two. I'm again saying, okay, if you watch the Big Bang Theory, you can actually pick out the places where Sheldon actually employs Bathos. Okay, unintentionally, a very serious situation, no, he says something out of the box, and you cannot even think that somebody in the right mind would say something like that. Okay, and it has a comedic effect. It does not, you're not offended by it. It does have a comedic effect. Okay, so that is Bathos. Now, when you come to scope and placement, Anticlimax refers to a letdown at a point where climax is expected. Like at a point when you expect, okay, now we're going to get resolution, actually that balloon deflates. There's no popping of the balloon. So often at the end of a sentence, paragraph, or even a story arc, anything, it can be a sentence anywhere where you expect a very you expect a boom, but that boom does not happen. There's a complete deflation. Okay, turn. So it is a climax that fails. Okay, climax does not take place. Bathos is a broader term for a descent from the sublime to the ridiculous, from the sublime, okay, to the ridiculous. While it can function as an anticlimax, it specifically emphasizes the absurdity of the sudden shift. Okay, so the key over here is the absurdity, the comedic effect. Like, how can you even think that this is going to happen? Okay, and you have to understand this sudden shift in anticlimax. No, in anticlimax, there's a letdown, a fall. Climax does not take place. For Bathos, it's absurd, out of the box, completely absurd, and it's for comedic effect. Okay, now often through an inappropriate juxtaposition, like I said, when you see Sheldon's character, sometimes you'll think that how can somebody say something like this? But in that scene, and for the character of Sheldon, it makes sense and it is funny. So it's though inappropriate juxtaposition of the serious with the trivial. It's a juxtaposition, contrast of the serious with the trivial, serious with something that is not so important. Okay, it's a contrast. So it can occur at various points in a narrative, not just at an expected climax. And yeah, this is also another difference. For anticlimax, it's when you expect a climax, but that climax does not happen. So anticlimax. But for Bathos, it can happen anywhere in the plot. It can happen anywhere in the sentence. Not necessarily. It does not have to do anything with the climax. It can happen at the climax. It can happen in the beginning. It can happen in the middle. It can happen anywhere in the narrative. Okay. So this is the difference. Okay. As far as the placement is concerned. Okay, placement is concerned. Scope and placement. So we're done with intentionality. Yeah, intentionality, scope and placement. And the last one is the focus. For anticlimax, it focuses on the disappointment or letdown of an unfulfilled expectation. The emphasis is on the lack of a satisfying resolution. Bathos focuses on the ludicrousness, that is absurdity, okay, or of the sudden drop in tone or subject matter. It highlights the incongruity of the high and low. So, like I said, for anticlimax, that expectation is built up and then there's a drop. For Bathos, there's no not necessarily that expectations are built up. You're talking. It's maybe expectations can be built up, maybe no need of climax, maybe need of climax, maybe middle of the novel, maybe no. It can happen anywhere, not necessarily just where the climax has to happen. And that is why it's the high and low. Okay, it can be immediate, it can be intended, it can be unintentional also. So this is the difference between anticlimax and Bathos. Now lastly, relationship to Pthos. What is its relationship to Pthos? Bathos is specifically contrasted with Pthos. Pthos aims to evoke genuine pity or sorrow, like I said, but Bathos, when unintentional, is a failed attempt at pathos. Again, I'm stressing on Sheldon Cooper's character, and it would be really nice if you have watched The Big Bang Theory, if you can tell me one such situation. You can comment down below one such situation where Sheldon actually evokes Bathos. If you have watched the series, it's very, very interesting and fun. Bathos is unintentional, a failed attempt at pathos. There are many times when in serious situations you expect Sheldon to show some kind of empathy, show some kind of emotional connection, but they're just things that he doesn't understand. Okay, he doesn't understand. It's in his character only. Okay, or he has different ways of showing it. So pathos is evoked. So becoming so over the top or incongruous that it elicits laughter instead of tears. Okay. Now, in summary, I'll tell you, think of anticlimax as a broad category for any disappointing or less dramatic conclusion. Anticlimax is a broader term. Any build-up of expectation that the opposite happens, or there's a drop or deflation. Okay, Bathos is a specific type of anticlimax from that involves a particularly absurd or ludicrous descent. Okay, it's a particular kind of to evoke comedy. Okay, to evoke this sense of laughter. Okay, it's a descent from the elevated to the commonplace, are often resulting from an unsuccessful attempt at serious emotion. So unsuccessful attempt at serious emotion, you're trying to be serious, okay, but it just becomes commonplace. Okay, so all bathos is a form of anticlimax, but not all anticlimax is bathos unless it's particularly absurd or unintentionally funny. So it has to be absurd and funny. Okay, if it's absurd and funny, it is bathos. And again, all anticlimax, okay, bathos is a form of anticlimax, because you go up to a point and then there's a drop, but not all anticlimax is bathos. Not all anticlimax is bathos. Okay, bathos has to be absurd, ludicrous and funny. It has to evoke laughter. Okay, and it is not necessary that anticlimax will do that. Okay, anticlimax can have a range of emotions that can be evoked. It can be any kind of emotion, but particularly unintentional, intentional laughter, ludicrousness, absurdity, right? That fall is bathos. So I really tried I tried my best actually to explain these three concepts to you, because these are confusing literary devices. You cannot learn literary devices solo. Okay, focusing on solo words. Okay, single words, like if you just learn say anticlimax now and later you learn bathos, it will be very confusing because there's so many similarities and differences. So I actually take these similar words, right, and explain them to you in a way that you'll understand the differences. If you understand the differences and similarities, you'll understand the concepts. So I really hope this is of help to you. I tried my level best to explain these concepts as clearly as possible. So if this video has been of help to you, then please do consider liking the video, sharing the video and subscribing to my channel for similar content. And till we meet again, I really hope that you stay healthy and happy. See you in the next one, guys.